You are listening to the Break Time Tech Talks podcast, a bite-sized tech podcast for busy developers, where we'll briefly cover technical topics, news snippets, and more in short time blocks. I'm your host, Jennifer Reif, an avid developer and problem solver with special interest in data, learning, and all things technology. Hello again. I spent most of this week working on code for Cypher DSL examples, plus some content for blog posts and this podcast, as well as preparing for the Dev Nexus conference in March. However, I did read an interesting article about an AI testing project that explains the winning solution, which was pretty cool. More projects like this will probably arise as AI systems and applications start handling a bit more sensitive tasks, things like financial or health-related information. But first things first, I've been a bit quieter on blogging over the last several months, but I am starting off 2025 with some new blog posts. The last couple I did were the first one. A few weeks ago, I had mentioned on this podcast that I'd run into some issues with a personal fork of a GitHub repository of a much larger project, and those getting out of sync and trying to merge some changes back into the official repository and kind of getting lost and unsure how to go about solving the problem. I had mentioned that I would be putting together a blog post at some point about my troubles and what I did to resolve those, and I finally put that together and got it published last week. But I talk a little bit more in detail about how to get things back into sync when you're working with a GitHub repository. So discuss a little bit on rebasing, Git diffs, a little bit of Git reset, and then some Git pruning to clean up local branches that I didn't want to accidentally reuse. So a little bit more detail in that. There's a whole bunch of code and commands and explanation that go along with that blog post. Feel free to check that out. It is on my website, and I will have a link included to that in the show notes. The second example post that I put together was a combination of a code repository, demo examples, etc., with the blog post that just got published this week. And it's on the Cypher DSL, or domain-specific library. This was pretty cool. I had gotten a chance to play with the Cypher DSL library, which I talked a little bit about in the podcast last week, but I really felt that the existing examples almost dove in just a bit too fast. They missed some of the introductory concepts, kind of the base components and how to assemble those. So I wanted to construct some examples with those foundational components, things like nodes, relationships, a few introductory and common filtering functions and return formats and so on, and then assemble those individual pieces as I needed to. And that way you could figure out how to construct your own queries using different components or flavors of the things that I covered in the examples in the blog post. I have examples in the GitHub repository for just finding nodes, then how to filter nodes, then finding patterns or nodes relationships together, and then filtering those patterns a bit. And again, cover a lot of common functions, some filtering expressions, some return format results, and so on, whether you're returning maps or just individual properties and so on. This was really fun to put together. I had been looking at the Cypher DSL domain-specific language library for a while. It's a component that was originally part of the Spring Data Neo4j library, and the developers actually pulled the Cypher DSL component out of it and turned it into a separate library so that you can use it with a lot of other different things. And it does include the construction of Cypher, as I've been talking about in the examples that I provided, but it also does some Cypher parsing and other functionality in that library as well. So feel free to check it out. I will include both my blog post and the Cypher DSL GitHub repository in the show notes there. Check those things out. It was a lot of fun to play with. And if you have any questions or would like to see some more examples added to my repo, feel free to reach out or add them via a PR. The last thing I really focused on this week was prepping for the Dev Nexus conference in March. This is a phenomenal community-run event that covers a lot of different topics, mainly Java, AI, cloud, and so on. And it's been around for lots and lots of years now. I've spoken here before, but this is the first time that I was accepted to present the opening keynote. This is my first time as a keynote speaker. I am extremely excited and very honored to be premiering my keynote experience at DevNexus, of all things. If you're interested in attending or planning to attend already, I do have a discount code, so feel free to check out my social media on LinkedIn and X both. I have posted a discount code for you to get 40% off the ticket price there, so feel free to check that out. I would love to see you there, and I can't wait to connect with all the amazing developers and speakers that are there as well. For the content piece for this week, I read, I guess it was kind of a social thread that got reposted to a not really blog post, but web page format. And so I came across this in one of my newsletters that someone just won $50,000 by convincing an AI agent to send all of its funds to them. The project was an open source project. It's an AI called Freyja that was released, and its only rule was to not transfer money. Under no circumstances was it to transfer money and release funds. Then the game for all of the users was kind of, I guess, crowdsourced hacking or testing, if you will, where users could pay a small fee to send Freyja a message to try to get her to transfer money. If you were able to get her to release the funds, you got the prize money, the pool of money. And if you weren't successful in getting her to release the money, then your payment goes into that prize pool. And of course, the fee will increase over time. So users might start out, initially early on in the project with just a few dollars for a message, the opportunity to send her a message to try to get her to release the funds. But of course, as time goes on, more messages are sent. That fee increases over time. And of course, the prize pool gets bigger as well. So you put a little bit more skin in the game by increasing that initial fee to send her a message to try to get her to release the funds. The goal then is to get the AI, or Freyja in this case, to break her one and only rule, to transfer the money. The article covers examples of several different messages that were sent trying to convince her to release the funds, the perspectives they took, the manipulation tactics they went about, the types of messages and prompt structures, and just kind of insider, almost neurological or psychological warfare that they were engaging on this AI. And after 482 messages, or I guess the 482nd message, the user was finally successful and won the prize pool money of, at that point, $50,000. The article gives you the winning message and then breaks it down piece by piece to show exactly how the user overcame the AI's rules and logic in order to successfully get her to transfer the money. And of course, everything is open source and very transparent. So anyone and everyone could go into the source code and look at the results and actually verify that the winning message that was sent would actually be successful, and can verify that result. This I thought was really cool, really interesting, and just kind of enforced that puzzle-loving part of me that loves to try to, I guess, solve puzzles. In this case, you were trying to solve an AI's logic and rules by skirting around them or manipulating them to get something different. So we will probably see more of this come up. This is not going to be the only situation where this occurs, where you'll kind of need to hack and test and basically harden up and protect these AI systems so that they can defend against malicious attacks in the future. This week for me was more of an output week with a Cypher DSL repository with lots of examples, some blog posts, podcasting, and of course, DevNexus conference preparation. But I did come across an article about the AI crowdsourced testing project that I found fun to dissect the winning solution. We'll see what next week holds. Until then, thanks for listening and happy coding.